Fermat's principle of stationary time and derivation of laws of reflection.
Last class we have seen what is refractive index. So refractive index actually gives the optical density of the medium. In that we saw two types. So the first type is relative refractive index, wherein the formula was n is equals to V1 by V2. And then we saw absolute refractive index. So the formula for absolute refractive index is n is equals to C by V. Here for absolute refractive index, the first medium will always be vacuum. So for vacuum or in vacuum, the velocity of light will be c. So c is 3.8 meters per second. So this is the velocity of light in vacuum. So this C is used in absolute refractive index. And later we saw how the N2 by N1 is dependent on V1 by V2. We saw it by deriving the formulas. And then later we saw two cases, case 1 and case 2. So in case 1 we saw N1 less than N2. This is for refraction condition. So these two are the refraction conditions. So if N1 is less than N2, then we say N1 is the rarer medium and N2 is the denser medium. So when light travels from rarer medium to denser medium, it bends towards the normal and away from the surface. Whereas if it goes from N1, N2, if N1 is greater than N2, then optical density of the medium 1 is greater than N2, then the N1 can be said as the denser medium or high densed medium. So if light travels from dense medium to the rarer medium, then light bends away from the normal or towards the surface. So these are the two cases that we saw for the refraction of light in the last class. Then at the end we saw limitation of the Snell's law. So what we learned in the Snell's law is, so for normal incidence, Snell's law does not hold good. So these are the things that we have learned in the last class. So in today's class we'll be discussing the Fermat's principle. Before going to that topic, we need to understand what is geometrical path and what is optical path. So the geometrical path is what this geometrical path states is, so when light travels between 2 points, say for example A and the B, so the geometrical path between 2 points is the actual distance traveled by the light in going from one point to another. Say may this be D1. This, let's suppose if light travels in this distance, or if light has traveled in this distance, then geometrical path is the actual path that is traveled by light when it moves from point A to point B. So this is geometrical path. So with this geometrical path, we will define optical path. So optical path is nothing but it is just the product of geometrical path and the refractive index of the medium. So if geometrical path of the light is denoted as x we know that n represents what? It represents the refractive index of the medium. Now, if you take the product of both these two quantities, then what you get is, you get optical path. So, optical path is equals to x multiplied by n. So, this is optical path. Let's suppose in time t, if the light travels x1 distance in n1 refractive index medium, and x2 distance in n2 refractive index medium. So from this, in time t, light travels x1 distance in n1 refractive index medium and x2 distance in n2 refractive index medium. Then we can equate both these equations. Say x1 n1 will be equals to what? It will be equals to x2 n2. So here the time is same for the two different paths with two different medium. So if optical path is same, the time taken by path is different in different medium. So even if this optical path is same, time will be different. Say for example, so the refractive index can be written as what? Relative refractive index is v1 by v2. So we know that velocity is what? Velocity is distance by time taken. So now I can write this distance as x and time as t. So in medium 1, if a light travels x distance in time t1, and in medium 2, if it travels x distance in time 2, then n1 will be what? t2 by t1, or it can also be written as t2 is equals to nt1. So here condition is what? Condition is that the optical path is same, but the time taken by path is different in different medium. So because of that, here x and x are same, but the time taken is different for different medium. So from this equation we get the equation t2 is equals to nt1. So now let us try to understand what is Fermat's principle of stationary time. So what Fermat said is, so if a light travels from one point to another point, then it has to take the path which takes the least time to reach from one point to another point. So Fermat's principle stated that the path actually taken by a ray of light in passing from one point to another is the path of least time. So to go from this point to this point, there are so many ways. So you can go from direct short distance, or the light also can travel in this path, or light also can travel in this path, or light also can travel in this path, So there are so many different paths that are possible to move from one point to another point. So what Fermat said is, so the path which light will take will be dependent on the time. So the path taken by light is dependent on what? Time. So what he said is, this path which is taken by light will have the least time. So say for example, if this path, see, this is D1 path, this is D2 path, this is D3 path. So if you see here, the path traced by the light in D3 is much more greater than path traced by the light in D2. But if in any case, if the time taken for light to pass from this path D2, if this is less, time for D3 pass is less than compared to D2 and D1, then the light will travel in this path only. Which is that path? It is D3 path. So there is no condition that so the light should travel in the shortest distance that is possible. The light can also take the longest distance, but if the time taken for this path is shorter, or if it is less when compared to all the possible paths that are possible to move from point 1 to point B. So this is what the Fermat said. But in some cases, light prefers the maximum time. Say for example, in case of spherical reflector or in case of elliptical reflector, light takes the same path or same time for all the paths. So in case of elliptical, so the path, if this is A and if this is B, so whatever the different paths may it be, the time taken will be same for all this. So in this view, the Fermat principle failed. So now what they have done is they modified the Fermat principle and they gave another statement which says, so a light traveling from one point to another point will traverse a path for which, compared to all neighboring paths, the time required is a minimum or maximum or a stationary. So it has to be what? Time has to be either minimum or maximum, or sometimes it can also be the constant. So this principle is also known as the Fermat's principle of extreme path. Or this can also be said as Fermat's principle of stationary time. So these are the two different names for which the Fermat's principle can be understood. So what it states is, when a light traveling from one point to another point, it can take any path, so compared to the other paths, so but the time required should be either minimum or maximum, or it has to be stationary or constant. So this is the principle of Fermat's principle of extreme path. So on this basis, let us derive the laws of reflection. So there are basically two laws. So these two laws we saw in the last class. So what first law of reflection says is, it says the incident ray, the reflected ray and the normal drawn to the surface, they all lie in the same plane. Incident ray, so this is the first law of reflection. And the second law states the angle of incidence should be equals to angle of reflection. So these are the two laws which I have discussed in the last class. If you are not thorough with this concept, then go back to the last lecture and try to understand the laws of reflection and come back to this lecture and understand the derivation of laws of reflection by using the Fermat's principle. And for all these videos I have left the comment section on, so if you have any doubts then you can comment directly in the video in the comment section below. So now let us understand the first law. So to understand first law, so we need a plane mirror. So this is the plane mirror. And on top of this plane mirror, there is a plane which is ABCD. So I'm sorry, I think this is visible now. So this is plane mirror. So here this is the plane which is ABCD. So now what we are doing here is, so there is a normal. So normal is always denoted by the letter N, and this is the center. So now if you incident a ray of light, say for example AO on the surface, then what will happen? This light or this ray of light will get reflected back. So if this is B, then OB is what? OB is reflected ray, and OA is the incident ray, ON is the normal drawn to the surface. So if you see all these incident ray, reflected ray and the normal drawn to the surface, all these are lying in the same plane. Suppose now if you change the normal, or if you shift the normal, so where if OP is normal, then the incident ray comes and falls here, and then it gets reflected back to this point. So again here AP is incident ray and PB is reflected ray. So now if you see, the ray AP is greater than AO. How? See, from the diagram it is clear. See, if you see the path traced by the light, so if you draw the normal which is perpendicular to the ray, then you can see there is an extra path that is traveled by the light here. So this is the extra path. So from that I can write AP is greater than AO. And if you see BP is again greater than BO. How? So again try to draw the line which is perpendicular to the path traveled by light. Then you can see this is again the extra path which is traveled. So from that we can say BP is greater than BO. So from this both two equations I can write AP plus BP is greater than AO plus BO. So which is against to the Fermat's principle. Therefore, so this is against to the what? It is against to the Fermat's principle. So therefore, this point P should always coincide with the point O such that the path traveled by the light can be minimum. Hence all these incident ray, reflected ray and the normal drawn to the surface can lie in the same plane which is stated above. So now let us see the second law, which is angle of incidence should be equals to what? It should be equals to angle of reflection. So now let us understand the second law. So to understand this law, again we need to have the reflecting surface wherein we will incident the light ray and we will observe the reflection of the light ray. Say for example, so if M1 and M2 are the reflecting surface, and ON will be what? Will be the normal drawn to the surface. So now if you incident a ray of light, say for example AO on the reflecting surface, then what will happen is the light gets reflected and the path is what? OB. So AO is incident ray and OB is reflected ray. So here the angle made by the incident ray will be I and the angle made by the reflected ray will be R. So now from this point draw a perpendicular line to the reflecting surface and from this point also. So if this point is D and if this point is C and the distance here will be M and here it will be N. So now if you see what will be the angle here, it will be again high because these are two opposite angles, and if you see angle here, it will be what? It will be R. Let's say if AO is equals to X and OB will be equals to Y. So this is the basic diagram which you have to understand to know the derivation for the laws of reflection. In that we are dealing with the second law. So now let us write all the values. So here OA will gives you what? It gives you X and OB will give you Y and AD is equals to M and BC is equals to N. BC is equals to N. So in this the speed of light can be taken as C. So C represents the velocity of light. So now here we have to understand the time taken by the light to go from AO and from OB. So what can be the light, or what can be the time taken for the light to cover AOB distance? So from the formula, velocity is equals to what? It is displacement by okay. So from this we can take the time can be equals to what? It is equals to displacement by velocity. So here we have considered velocity as c. So what could be the displacement from the above diagram? So AO is x and OB is y. So if we write the displacement will be simple. It will be x plus y, and if you check for time, then it is x plus y by c. So now we don't know what is x and what is y. So let us have the two triangles AOD and BOC to understand what is x and y. So we want what? We want x and y. So first let us take the triangle AOD. So here is the triangle AOD. So from this, if you write the sec theta or sec I will be what? OA by AD. OA by AD. So OA is x, AD is m. So from this I can write x can be equals to m sec I. So this is for x. Now if you take another triangle, let's suppose triangle BOC, then sec R, here angle of reflection, here angle of incidence. Sec R will be what? Again OB by BC. OB by BC. So that can give you what? Y by n, which you can write it as. So y by n can be written as y is equals to n sec R. So from these both two triangles, you got the value of x and you got the value of y. So substitute both the values of x and y in this equation. So t is equals to x plus y by c. If you substitute x is what? M sec I plus n sec R divided by c. So call this equation as equation 1.